UFC 290, Volkanovski Rodriguez in the main event. We're going to give our breakdown and prediction of every single fight on this absolutely stacked International Fight Week card. It is going to take place on July 8th. Currently, it is May 23rd. So, you already know the deal. There's obviously possibility a lot of these fights could be canceled, switched around. We could have new fights added to the card. You never really know with cards like this. Hoping for the best, but if there's some difference on the card from when you're watching it and from right now, you know why. This is a very early full card prediction. We're going to start from the bottom, make our way all the way to the top. And before I get into this prediction, make sure to go down and like the video, subscribe to the channel with notifications on, check the description for all of my bets, and of course comment your prediction. That's one thing I love to see in the comments of every one of my videos is what underdogs are you guys picking? Do you have Dricus du Plessis going out there getting the knockout? Put your predictions in the comments. And with that being said, let's get into this stacked pay-per-view. I mean, to have Jack Della Maddalena, Sean Brady on the prelims, this is a stacked card. Let's get into it. First fight in the UFC's light heavyweight division. Jimmy Crute and Alonzo Minefield rematch number 2 in the light heavyweight division. Alonzo has been doing really good since the loss to William Knight, which, I mean, a lot of people are saying that one was a robbery and things like that, but he was doing pretty good before that, beating Fabio Cherant in round 1. Kind of playing a more technical approach on Ed Herman and winning the unanimous decision, taking down and smashing Askar Morzarov and then knocking out Misha Serganov really fast in that fight. And then he had a banger of a fight with Jimmy Crute. And I'm going to pull up the statistics on this one because a lot of people don't really remember how the fight kind of played out. And most people were thinking it was just an all-out war, which it kind of was. But there were definitely some moments where both guys could have put a stamp on that fight and were able to win it on that fight. Let's see, Minefield UFC stats, because the stats on this fight were insane, in my opinion. Let's go to the UFC stats website for this banger of a fight. So you see right here, Alonzo Minefield dropping Jimmy Crute twice, 2 times in this fight. I mean, he dropped him pretty badly in this one. I mean, he was almost out of there twice in this fight. Alonzo Minefield got those 2 knockdowns in round number 1 and in round number 2, but there was a point deduction, I believe, from Alonzo Minefield. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there was a point deduction. Alonzo won round 1, won round number 2 fairly dominantly, landing those big knockdown shots, landing almost double the shots as Jimmy Crute in both round 1 and in round number 2. Even though Jimmy Crute was able to land 4 takedowns in round 1, he still was dropped in the round and got outlanded significantly. But I do believe it was the point deduction that made it a draw. But the fact that Jimmy Crute had the success early on and every single round was able to take down Alonzo Minefield and land some ground and pound, this fight, he can stay away from getting knocked down like he was in the first fight and mix in that wrestling very nicely in this fight with Alonzo Minefield. Keep the striking even, mix in the takedowns. I think Jimmy Crute should be able to win this fight. As of right now, Alonzo Minefield is the favorite with 52%. Going Alonzo to get the TKO win. I know that's probably what you guys are going to be thinking, given Jimmy Crute got knocked out by Anthony Smith, got knocked out by Jamal Hill, and then got knocked down twice by Alonzo Minefield in the last fight. But you already know he's going to be putting on those improvements for the second fight. I believe his striking is going to be better. He is the taller guy. He is the younger guy. He's just going to be improving this whole entire fight camp leading up to this fight. And I think he's going to play a more technical striking approach while mixing in those takedowns. I do have this one going all the way just like that first fight. And I got Jimmy Crute losing round number 1. Alonzo's going to stuff those takedowns early on, land some good shots. Round number 2, round number 3, I got Jimmy Crute getting the fight to the mat, controlling it there, ground and pounding, looking for submissions, but Alonzo's a tough guy. I got Jimmy Crute by decision. Vitor Petrine and Marcin Prachnio in the light heavyweight division. It's obvious who the UFC wants to win. They wanted to put a banger fight early on this fight card. Either, I don't think this fight goes to a decision, but either we see Marcin Prachnio go out there and just get caught with a bomb early on by Vitor Petrine, or Vitor Petrine is going to walk right into a kick from Marcin Prachnio or a counter from Marcin Prachnio. 89% going Petrino is stupid. In my opinion, nobody should be that confident in a 25-year-old guy that's only one fight or two fights in his professional MMA career have gone to a decision. He's very good early on, and he has crazy power in his hands. But he hasn't fought a guy as technical as Marcin Prachnio. That's just, if he's able to keep this fight on the feet, stay away from those big shots, he's very good to counter you and kick you on the way in. And I did say either way this is going to be a KO, but there is a possibility for Marcin to counter and Vitor Petrine to get a little bit tired and a little bit wavering in his punches. Really slow Nick Diaz style punches coming in on Marcin Prachnio. And Marcin could literally go out there with the Israel Adesanya strategy of just countering when you come in, move, kick you to the body, TP you to the body, and stay on the outside and win a decision. I think that's actually a very good possibility to happen, given Marcin has a decision over Khalil, got a knockout on Ike Villanueva, and a decision on William Knight. He's not really the guy to go out there and just knock out his opponents really fast, but he does get knocked out like we saw against Mike Rodriguez, so it should be an interesting one. I am gonna lean, it's not at all a confident pick, I am gonna lean Vitor Petrine to get in Marcin's face early on in this fight, crack him at the beginning of round number 1, and then crack him again at the end of round number 1, and finish him off with about 30 seconds remaining in the very first round. If you're betting on this fight, I'm assuming Marcin is obviously going to be the underdog, given the overwhelming Tapology support, which is crazy in my opinion. But once those betting odds do come out, I'm sure you're probably going to get some good plus money on Marcin's money line, or even Marcin Prachnio by decision, but should be a good one in the light heavyweight division. Esteban, Ribovics, and Kamuela Kirk in the lightweight division, 29 and 27 years old, same height, but a way longer reach for Kamuela Kirk. This dude is a long guy for the UFC's lightweight division, and Esteban is really a small guy in terms of reach for the lightweight division. Kamuela did fight on the Contender Series and fought an absolute beast in Billy Quarantillo, which is one of the hardest fights you can do on the Contender Series, and he ended up getting finished in that fight. Also got finished in his second fight in the UFC against Damon Jackson, but was able to grind on Makwan Amirkhani and win the unanimous decision. This fight pretty much comes down to, can Kamuela get the fight down? Can he control the fight on the ground, and can he beat Esteban Ribovics for 3 straight rounds with wrestling and with the grappling? And again, the man just fought 2 fights in the featherweight division, is going up a weight class to fight a guy that had a very close fight with Loic Radzhabov and was able to stuff a lot of his takedowns. So this should be an interesting one. This is stupid. I mean, again, 92% for Esteban Ribovics. What are y'all thinking with this? I mean, he at most like 55-60% would be my confidence percentage for Esteban Ribovics. I do have him winning by a decision here. Kamuela did get knocked out by Billy Quarantillo, but I believe in this fight he's going to mix in that wrestling and grappling whenever he does get hurt. Not enough to completely control Esteban on the ground, but I think Esteban defends most, if not all, of these takedowns and outstrikes Kamuela to the unanimous decision. Christian Rodriguez and Cameron Saaiman in the bantamweight division. I have picked Cameron Saaiman in every single fight that I predicted for him inside the UFC, and he's done very well, knocking out Steven Kozlow in his UFC debut, even though he had the point deduction that could have ended up costing him his life in that fight. And then Mana Martinez, I believe there was also a gosh dang point deduction that almost costed him his life. But he was able to win both of those fights, hurting his opponents pretty badly in round number 3. And he's really young. He's 22 years old. Christian Rodriguez is 25 years old, 5'8", 5'7", with a good reach advantage for Christian Rodriguez. I mean, this is a fight between two prospects of the bantamweight division. I mean, Cameron has no losses, and Rodriguez only lost is to a top 15 UFC featherweight fighter. I mean, that is very impressive. Both guys I do expect to be inside of the top 15 of the bantamweight division at some point in their MMA careers, possibly the top 10, possibly even the top 5, and maybe champion, you never know. But it's a super close fight between these two guys. Tapology, I don't even know what they're going to think. 68% going Cameron Saaiman in this fight. I'm going to have to agree with that. I would say a little bit less confident than 68%. That is a little steep for my opinion. But I don't think Christian Rodriguez is going to go out there and do what he always does and mix in some of those takedowns, a little bit of wrestling and grappling, like he did with Joshua Weems submitting him, and like he did with Raul Rosas Jr., winning that one by a unanimous decision. I actually believe Cameron Saaiman should be able to defend those takedowns, and I think he's slightly the better striker. Both guys, I don't expect to get finished at all in this fight. If there is a finish, I'll be super shocked. So I got this one going all the way. Cameron Saaiman winning round number 2 and round number 1. Losing the final round, even though he wins like every round number 3. I think we're going to see a reverse on this one. So Cameron Saaiman, a very close 29-28. Decision. Yazmin Jauregui, a future UFC strawweight title challenger, in my opinion, taking on Denise Gomes, 24 and 23 years old. Just like the last fight we just saw with Cameron Saaiman, Christian Rodriguez, this is yet another undefeated fighter in the lower weight classes taken on Denise Gomes, another younger fighter in this lower weight class. They're similar height, similar reach, nothing really to matter in that department, but Yazmin Jauregui is going to be the better striker, in my opinion. Denise Gomes did get outstruck a little bit against Loma Lookboonmee, but she's a really good Muay Thai fighter. But that wasn't the reason she lost. It could have been a really close striking battle, and a few good moments from Denise Gomes could have won her the fight. But the fact that she got taken down by Loma Lookboonmee in that fight did end up costing her the win, and she got ground and pounded. She got cut open pretty badly in the fight. That is something that Yazmin Jauregui does like to do. She likes to put on that pressure, land some big shots in the feet, and look for that TKO. And eventually, she does like to take the fight down. And with a girl like Denise Gomes that likes to do a lot of spinning attacks and things like that, I do believe that she will find a way to get Denise Gomes down at some point or another. I think the striking is going to be very even. Again, I give a slight advantage to Yazmin Jauregui, but the fact that she also has a few takedowns to mix in there every now and then leads me to believe Yazmin should be the rightful winner here. Yazmin, 29-28 decision. The winner, for sure, getting a shot in the top 15. Jesus Aguilar and Shannon Ross in the flyweight division. Jesus, 27 years old. Very small for the flyweight division. Again, I'm a flyweight. I'm 5 foot 10 inches tall, which you could say I'm a very skinny guy, or you can say that Jesus Aguilar is a very small guy. 62-inch reach right there. I mean, his arms and his head and his height and everything like that is very small, which leads you to believe, what do the smaller guys in the flyweight division like to do? What does Henry Cejudo like to do? Well, he's going to go out there and try to get those takedowns, mix in the wrestling, mix in the jiu-jitsu, and try to win the fight on the ground. Shannon Ross is not doing too good inside the UFC, and he lost on Dana White's Contender Series to Vinicius Salvador, got submitted by Steve Erceg, who I don't know what he's doing, not inside the UFC yet, and then Paulo Loga and then Donovan Freeland, not the best guys over there. Then he got knocked out pretty badly by Cledson Rodriguez. Shannon Ross is a very exciting fighter, I will give him that, but he's 34 years old. He gets finished in pretty much every single fight. I think Jesus Aguilar knows that. His chin is going to be a little bit cracked, and Jesus is going to go out there and just pressure Shannon Ross. Try to land one of those big shots, hurt him on the feet. He's going to be dazed and confused, and Jesus is going to pop that guillotine on in round number 2. That is the prediction. Jesus Aguilar. What did I just say? Guillotine submission in round number 2. Sean Brady and Della Maddalena in the welterweight division. I'm going to be honest, I feel very, very good on Della Maddalena. Aside from the fact that, what are all of these fights? Angelusa, a guy going out there to strike with him. Pete Rodriguez, a guy going out there to strike with him. Danny Roberts, a guy going out there to strike with him. Randy Brown, a guy to go out there and strike with him. There was the Ramazan Ameev fight, though. But again, Ramazan Ameev, I personally don't believe is on the level of a Sean Brady. And we did see him go out there and get that first round knockout in that fight. It just worries me. I'm going to go Della Maddalena, but the only grappler, wrestler type of guy he's faced inside the UFC was Ramazan Ameev a while ago, and since then he's been training for other strikers. You never know with fights like these. Obviously, Della Maddalena is going to be the much better striker here than Sean Brady, but do we know really much of anything about Della Maddalena's grappling and wrestling game? We don't really, to be honest with you. We don't really know that much on Della Maddalena's ground game. And he got taken down by Ramazan. It was close to getting submitted by Ramazan Ameev in that fight. If Sean Brady's able to get him in similar situations, there's a possibility Sean Brady could be able to win this fight. It's an interesting one. I am going to go Della Maddalena to knock out Sean Brady in round number 2. I think this one goes a little bit longer than Jack's usual fights, but it should be interesting. I think Sean lands a takedown in round 1, but he's not going to be able to in round 2. Going to get cracked, and it's going to be even worse than the Belal Muhammad one because he's actually going to get dropped. Unlike Belal, who couldn't even drop his opponent. I'm sorry, Belal. I'm just throwing shade here for no reason. All right. Della Maddalena, round number 2, TKO. Robbie Lawler and Niko Price in the welterweight division. I'm sorry to say this. But I think Robbie Lawler is going to get knocked out. I don't want it. I obviously do not want this to be the case. He got submitted by Ben Askren, got unanimous decision losses to Neil Magny and Colby Covington. He was able to beat Nick Diaz in a very good win. But then he got knocked out pretty badly by Brian Barberena and really just did not look that good in that fight. Niko Price is a killer. The man comes forward and he just throws and throws and throws, and he makes it an absolute war. If this fight is a war between Robbie Lawler at this stage in his career and Niko Price, I'm going to have to go Niko Price. This isn't going to be a technical fight. This isn't going to be like a wrestling and grappling type of a fight. This is going to be an all-out war on the feet. Robbie will have his moments early on. Niko's going to have some moments. And then I think, unfortunately, even though it is Robbie Lawler's retirement, they should have put him against another legend of the game, instead of Niko Price as his final MMA fight. I think Niko's going to catch him with something in round number 2. I hope Robbie Lawler wins, but I got Niko Price by TKO. Dan Hooker and Jalin Turner in the lightweight division. I'm very, very happy about this matchup. Very, very happy about this matchup because Dan Hooker just went down to the featherweight division and he got absolutely destroyed by Arnold Allen. Arnold is a very good guy, but that's a featherweight Arnold Allen that he just got knocked out badly by. Now he's going back up to the lightweight division after a win over just a pure grappler with very, very little striking, and Claudio Puelles got a very, very solid win in that one. But you got Jalin Turner here, who in my opinion should be a gosh dang welterweight fighter. This dude should just bulk up a little bit and fight in that welterweight division. He's got way more power, in my opinion, than Dan Hooker. He is taller. He is the same reach as Dan Hooker right here. But he is taller. He hits harder. He's got the better jiu-jitsu game. He's got the better grappling. He's got the better wrestling. I don't really see too many paths to victory for Dan Hooker other than catching Jalin Turner was something big. If Jalin wants to make this a jiu-jitsu fight, maybe Dan can catch him on the way in and knock him out. There's a very, very good possibility of that happening. But there's so many paths to victory for Jalin Turner, and there's not really that many for Dan Hooker, if I'm being quite honest with you. So I think the fight stays on the feet in round number 1. I think Jalin Turner will hurt him pretty badly, almost finish him in round number 1. And then in round number 2, he'll hurt him again, get the fight to the mat, and submit Dan Hooker yet again. And they'll probably set up Dan Hooker for UFC 293 against someone outside the rankings or something like that. But Jalin should have this win, in my opinion. Should be a good fight, a very, very solid fight here in the lightweight division. I am going to go Jalin Turner by submission. Robert Whittaker and Dricus du Plessis in the middleweight division. We did an earlier prediction on this fight, and you already know what I'm about to say. Robert Whittaker is better everywhere. We're going to talk technique. Robert Whittaker is better. I mean, you could say maybe power, but that's very, very even. The power between Dricus and Robert Whittaker is very, very even, but technique is going to go Robert Whittaker. The speed is going to go Robert Whittaker. The experience is going to go Robert Whittaker. The volume will go Robert Whittaker. The kicking game is going to go Robert Whittaker. The wrestling is going to go Robert Whittaker. The jiu-jitsu is going to go Robert Whittaker. The cardio is going to go Robert Whittaker. I mean, what chance does Dricus du Plessis have? We know what every MMA fighter has. You could be a 500-1 underdog. You always have that 1 in 500 chance to go out there and get them. I'm not saying Niko is 1 out of 500 to win this fight, but he has the nickname Still Knocks. Maybe that means he's going to knock out Robert Whittaker still. And I don't know what I'm really saying, but you kind of get the gist. The only way I see Dricus winning is if he catches Robert Whittaker, like Israel Adesanya was able to do, and like a few other guys earlier in Robert Whittaker were able to do, like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson knocking him out in round number 1. He'd have to go out there and knock him out. That's like the only way I would see Dricus du Plessis going out and winning this fight. But I don't see it happening. I don't see that happening. Robert Whittaker is just too good everywhere. And I think he finishes Dricus du Plessis. Dricus du Plessis gets finished in round number 3. I wish they made this fight a 5-round fight on this UFC pay-per-view. I love when they do that and they make like non-title fights on pay-per-views that aren't the main event, not the co-main event. I wish they would do more of that. Like below Muhammad Gilbert Burns, and make Whittaker du Plessis 5 rounds, because then I'd be even more confident for a Robert Whittaker finish. But I'm going to go Robert Whittaker in round number 3. Bo Nickal and Tresean Gore in the middleweight division. I am going to go Bo Nickal to win this fight. It's just a tailor-made matchup for him. Brian Battle was able to mix in those takedowns. Cody Brundage was able to mix in those takedowns and things like that. And they're both able to kind of control him on the ground, land some big shots on the feet even, and kind of control that fight there. Bo Nickal isn't necessarily the best absolute striker in the UFC's middleweight division. He's not one of those guys going out there to just knock out his opponents. We know the game plan of Bo Nickal is to take it down, ground and pound you a little bit, work for a submission, arm triangle you, rear naked you, guillotine you. Whatever the case may be, I don't. Maybe he'll go for an armbar. I don't know, but I'm assuming either an arm triangle or a rear naked choke submission would be the main path to victory for Bo Nickal in this fight. Again, it's a tailor-made matchup for him. Tresean Gore, who he got a win over Josh Fremd in his last fight, but Bo Nickal's no Josh Fremd. He's gonna land the takedown without getting caught in a gosh dang guillotine choke. I got Bo Nickal by submission in round number 2, not round number 1. I think Tresean is going to make it a point. If he gets taken down very, very easily, he's going to make it a point to survive as long as he possibly can. So, I got Bo Nickal, round 2, rear naked choke. Brandon Moreno and Alessandro Pantoja 3 in the flyweight division, Pantoja has beaten Brandon Moreno twice. Once on the Ultimate Fighter and once earlier on in Brandon Moreno's UFC career. Aside from the Davis and Figueiredo fight, that's the most recent time Brandon Moreno has lost was to Alexandre Pantoja, which is absolutely insane. And then Alexandre Pantoja again on the Ultimate Fighter. He did go on to win 3 in a row after that. Lost twice in a row. I mean, Alexandre Pantoja beating Brandon Moreno was the reason he was actually cut from the UFC. Had an LFA main event and then came right back in the UFC, beating some title challengers along the way. Kai Kara France by unanimous decision in a very, very good fight, submitting, I guess you could call it a submission because he kind of tapped against Brandon Royval. Then he was able to submit Davison Figueiredo. This should be really interesting. I mean, they fought twice before, and if you know anything about the first fight, Alexandre took him down fairly easily as the number 1 seed, with Brandon Moreno as the number 16 seed. I mean, this was like an underdog story for Brandon Moreno if he was able to win that fight. But he made it really, really interesting. I believe round 1, Pantoja was able to land those takedowns and control it very, very well. Round 2, Moreno was able to outstrike Pantoja on the feet. And then, Pantoja got his back and was able to submit him. That's how Pantoja needs to be again. He needs to go hardcore on the jiu-jitsu, on the submission, on the grappling, and get Brandon Moreno down ASAP and kind of play the Aljamain Sterling game plan and strategy. But is that what I think is going to happen? No. Obviously, Brandon Moreno has improved so much since those first 2 fights. His takedown defense is a lot better. His jiu-jitsu, his wrestling is a lot better than it was. Now, he can easily defend those takedowns, and because he is the much, much better striker than Alexandre Pantoja, I do have this fight going all the way, and Brandon Moreno winning by a 49-46 unanimous decision. Alexander the Great Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez in the main event of the featherweight division. I do have Volkanovski winning this fight. He's not as tall, but he is bigger. He is a little bit longer. He does have the wrestling. He has the grappling. He has the ground and pound. I mean, Alexander has shown and proven himself as a really, really good grappling type of guy in this UFC featherweight division. To go on that big of a win streak and then only lose to Islam in a fight that a lot of people actually thought he won, that is really, really freaking impressive from Alexander Volkanovski. And like I said, for the Alexandre Pantoja fight, I mean, Yair Rodriguez needs to keep this fight in his realm on the feet and stay at range on Alexander Volkanovski. Outstrike him on the outside and try to either catch him with a big flying knee, a big head kick, a big spinning kick, a body kick or something like that. Or he's going to have to really, really move, stand the outside and win a decision, countering Alexander Volkanovski for 5 straight rounds. But I highly doubt that. Volkanovski is going to be pressuring nonstop on Yair Rodriguez, staying safe, protecting himself from those big explosive shots from Yair Rodriguez. And of course, mixing in the takedown, mixing in the grappling, mixing in the ground and pound. And with that being said, I got Alexander Volkanovski beating Yair Rodriguez in this fight in the featherweight division by a unanimous decision. Then he's going to fight Ilia Topuria. Then if Movsar is able to beat like the Korean Zombie or something, then they'll do that one. Then, if Islam Makhachev is still the champ, I do believe Alexander Volkanovski will move back up to the lightweight division after, in my opinion, beating Movsar Evloev, beating Ilia Topuria, and beating Yair Rodriguez, moving up to the lightweight division and trying to retire on a super, super high note, beating Islam Makhachev, or whoever is the champion at the time, and retiring as the double champ, and one of, if not the greatest fighter of all time. That is what I see for Alexander Volkanovski. But a good fight there in the featherweight division. That is it. That is the full card prediction for UFC 290. About a month, maybe even more than a month, like a month and a half before the fight is actually set to take place. I got Alexander Volkanovski by decision, Brandon Moreno by a decision, Bo Nickal round 2 submission, Robert Whittaker by TKO round number 3, Jalin Turner submission by the end of round number 1 or the beginning of round number 2. I got Niko Price round 2 TKO, Jack Della Maddalena round 2 TKO, Jesus Aguilar round 1 or round number 2 submission, Yazmin Jauregui unanimous decision, Cameron Saaiman by a decision, Esteban Ribovics by a decision, Vitor Petrine by TKO round 1 or round number 2, and Jimmy Crute by a decision. Should be a good card. UFC 290. Put your predictions down below. Make sure to like this video, comment all your predictions down below, put who you think are the good underdog picks for UFC 290. Obviously, subscribe with notifications on, and if you want all of my MMA bets that I will be making for this entire card and for every other card for an entire month, check the top link in the description or the pinned comment down below. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one.